So next question that I got, which was a question and a complaint all kind of rolled into one, was a concern that the VAT registration threshold of R1 million is too low. And I really can see where the individual who asked this question was coming from, because it really is a bit of a concern. It is something which is problematic in the sense that not, especially for people who are transacting with the non-VAT registered public. So, people who sell to your retailers, your front-end service providers. Those are guys for whom VAT is actually just a straight cost, because their clients don't see a net of VAT amount. They just see the full sticker price. And for us, with price sensitivity, if we're competing predominantly against people who aren't VAT registered, then the VAT is just a straight increase in costs. So the concern here really is that the R1 million threshold is too low. And really, in principle, I do agree. That R1 million was last changed in 2009. Admittedly, back in 2009, it went up from 300,000 all the way through to R1 million, so it was quite a significant jump up back in 2009. But, that's 13 years ago. Just inflation adjusted, we should be significantly above the 1 million at this point. Right. So from that point of view, I fundamentally agree the amount hasn't been inflation adjusted. It probably should be increased again, and we should relook at it. Right. However, what I also want to add to this one is there is a concern, or there was a note in the budget speech, which was issued this year, or the budget speech from this year, so the Feb 2020 budget, 2022 budget speech, which said that all amounts, they are busy re-looking at how the amounts in the Income Tax Act, the tax acts, can become inflation adjusted in a reasonable and rational manner, in a way that's also simple to follow and manageable. So they have realized that certain of these thresholds do need to be adjusted on a more regular basis, and that we can't just adjust them once and then never touch them again. Right. Having said that, though, that doesn't absolve us from the fact that it is currently R1 million, whether we like it or not. Right. The second point that I want to make to this is, please remember that when we look at counting the R1 million, we are looking at activities which carry on regularly and continually in the Republic. So if you are carrying on a trade which turns over 600,000 and you suddenly sell a piece of equipment or a fixed asset or something, which puts you significantly over the R1 million, but the next year you back down to below the 600,000, then in terms of the law, you can ignore that once-off event. You don't have to register on that basis. In the same way that if you're an individual who sold your house, strictly speaking, that could, in theory, trigger a VAT registration responsibility, but we ignore it because it's something that's not continually carried on. So we also need to be sure that when we have our conversations with our clients, that we are looking at, are there outlying activity? Are there outlying earnings that put us over the R1 million, or is this their ongoing revenue? Right. I will admit that SARS, when they start looking and scratching under the surface, don't always make that distinction straight up front, but they rather just look at what you disclosed as turnover. But if we are aware of these, then at least it gives us something that we can argue against, because we can go to SARS and say, well, look, I hear you that we went over R1 million this year, but here's the unusual or once-off items which need to be taken out of this year. which truly are extraordinary and not really related to our enterprise, which kick us out. Therefore, and you can see in the next year we went back to below $1 million. Therefore, we shouldn't be registered, and you're legally entitled to do so. All right. But it does mean you have to have thought about it before you can apply it. So that's the one. Last point I just want to make on this is also please to remember that the R1 million is also linked to the turnover tax, which is aimed at the informal sector or your small business purposes. Practically and pragmatically, I don't see them changing the VAT number or the VAT registration threshold without changing the SME number. But yeah, how and when they change that, that's still a little bit up in the air. It's still being discussed. We'd have to wait and see.